Hello and welcome to my channel. I am Zodiac Bandit, and today we're going to have some spoilers ahead because obviously everything that I have to talk about regarding the campaign is going to be spoiler heavy, so spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. Last chance, spoilers. So with the spoiler warning out of the way, there are a few things that have been stuck in my head very recently regarding the campaign and the fate of certain characters, and that is the fate of Vax'ildan. What's going to happen to Vax? Now, the reason this is stuck in my head is twofold. One, Keyleth brings it up in episode 81 of Campaign 3 and how she wants to save him, but she can't save him right now because he is literally the thing keeping the bridge open for the Bell's Hells to be able to get in and deal with whatever's on the moon or gather information on the moon, and then he needs to stay in there until they're ready to sort of assault, go up on the moon, and then come back down. So he has to stay as a marble, like what he was turned into earlier on in the campaign, until they're done. And it really hurts her that this is the case, because she obviously loves him and wants him to be free. And then the other reason this has been stuck in my head is because I just made the best moments of 2023 video, and a lot of people said that that was their favorite moment, that Vax appeared and saved Keyleth and then was turned into a marble. Now, the marble part isn't part of everyone's favorite moment, but it's part of that scene itself, so I felt like including it here.
Scattering on the ground as Keyleth lies kind of frozen, eyes wide. Odahan goes for like a heart strike, and there's a dark flash in the air. And you see where Odahan's blade was. Instead, you see a cloak of feathers.
Jesus.
What?
Fuck, what the hell?
Black raven feathers.
Wait, put it on the bingo. Put it on the bingo.
Is Vax on there?
You see a masked figure with long...
Shut the fuck up, man! Shut up! No fucking way! You cannot be serious!
Where is it?
Who is now standing over and protecting her body. Daggers in each hand. Don't you even dare.
Oh God.
But it's been sort of on my mind recently because of all this, because of Keyleth bringing it up and because of the viewers bringing it up about how it was a great moment. And it really got me thinking about what's going to happen to Vax once it's all over. Once everything's done, what is going to happen to him? And I have come up with a few outcomes that I think are very plausible for where he's going to end up once this is all over. So I think there's three, from there you could technically branch off into more, but I think there's three very good solid points that we can look at to what could happen to Vax'ildan. And the first one, in my opinion, is the most boring one, and that is also the least satisfactory one, and that is he just goes back to being the champion of the Raven Queen. He continues to do his job as a usherer from soul to the afterlife, as he's been doing for the last 31, 32 years. He continues just doing that, and that's it. He just continues doing his job. He continues doing the job that he's been given, and everything just goes back to the status quo. Keyleth gets to stay alone and sad, and he gets to stay in his job, and most likely is very sad as well. And again, that is the most boring outcome in my opinion, because it's the one that returns to zero. You never want to go to zero. Once you go to, once you shift into gear 1, you want to shift into gear 2, and you want to finish in gear 5. You don't want to go all the way back to neutral. You don't want to go to zero, especially when you're telling a story. You want the story to move forward and not return back to a 0 point, because then the story was pointless. So for me, this is the most boring outcome because of that. Because if everything just goes back to the way it was before, what was the point of it happening in general? That's just my opinion. I know other people are going to disagree with that idea, but for me, if you're going to have a story get played out, I would like to see a different outcome than where they were at before, in any sort of way. If that means someone else is dead, or if that means no one's dead, or if that means everyone's dead, that's better than just having everyone stay where they are, in my opinion. And the next one is Vax is no more. Now, there's two ways that this can go about, in my opinion, and that is, one, to remove the power source and to make sure that the Divine Bridge or the Bloody Bridge is no longer there. They have to destroy the marble that is Vax'ildan, and there will be nothing left afterwards. This, to me, could start the narrative of Keyleth finally being able to move on and sort of live on her life without the idea that Vax is there looming over her and watching. I feel like that is what's holding her back. The idea that he is still technically there will always hold her back, and she'll never be able to move forward. So if he were to die because of this, and he had fulfilled his duty, he protected her, he had served 31 years doing his thing for the Raven Queen. He's protected her over the years. That is satisfying, in my opinion, for him to have been able to protect her in such a way, and then at the end of it, having to give up his life because he technically went out of his line of duty and sort of broke a rule to protect her. I feel like that's very satisfying that he gives up his life for that. And the power source thing is no longer relevant, so no one can travel back and forth between the moon and Exandria. I feel like that is kind of satisfying. The other one is, after everything is said and done, he is freed from the marble, but the Raven Queen says, you broke the rules. You weren't supposed to come to protect her, unless there is something in the rules that says that he's allowed to, which I don't believe there is. But then she punishes him by removing him from his post, and he is now eternally dead in the afterlife, or wherever the hell she's going to place him. And I think that is the same sort of satisfying loop of he gave up his life to protect Keyleth, and now she can move on because he's no longer over her shoulder. I think this is very satisfying, but there is a third option, in my opinion, which will be much better for a lot of the fans. And the third outcome that I could think of was, after all of this is said and done, he is allowed to return to life and live for an extended period of time, however long his life would have normally been, or until something else happens and he dies from something else. But he's allowed to return to life and live with Keyleth for a while, to just live a life again, because he has not only served 31 years or 32 years, depending on where we are in the timeline, of servitude for the Raven Queen, but now he is dealing with an extreme amount of pain in the situation he's in. And every time we've seen a vision involving the Raven Queen and Vax, it is described that he is in a lot of pain, and they're actually mourning. The people in the temples are mourning for Vax. Mourning for one of their own was the way they described it, which means that they're understanding the amount of pain that he is currently in, and the Raven Queen could see that as punishment. She could see that as that's a ton of punishment that you just went through over the last extended period of time. We don't know how long. I think it's been a couple of weeks as of right now, and he's been screaming the whole time, which is kind of fucked up. But she could see that as punishment enough and not send him to the afterlife after this is all done. She could give him another chance to sort of enjoy his life with Keyleth, and this will give closure to Vax, this will give closure to Vex, this will give closure to Keyleth, and it'll be a very nice way to wrap up campaign 1. After 31 years of them being separated, they're now allowed to come back together because of the pain that he went through in this moment. That being said, the pain he is going through right now is technically allowing the bridge to open up for the Raven Queen to be killed off, because that is the current situation we're looking at. The gods are in danger, and if Vax never showed up to save Keyleth in this moment, then they wouldn't be, because they wouldn't have that divine power source. But because he showed up, he sort of put the gods in jeopardy, so maybe she won't think this way. This is the one that I kind of want to have happen, because that out of everyone, there's never been a true, character death that has stayed permanent in any of these campaigns, with the exception of Bertrand Bell at the moment. But he is the only one that's, sort of had to, not exist in the normal realm. Vax is the only one who sort of got the shaft here. When Mollymauk died, he gets revived and comes back as Kingsley. Yes, it's not the same person, but he is still there. So there is something there still that is acting as the body that is once Lucian, once Mollymauk, and now Kingsley. He is back, if you will. But then you have Vax, who died in the first campaign, said, I will fight for you, Raven Queen, as long as you let me go back and fight for my friends and make sure they survive. And that happened, and now he's got the shaft, and he's sort of stuck there doing work for someone else, doing work for a god. He's not being able to live a life with anyone else. So I would very much like to see him have a life with Keyleth after, because 31 years, especially in the life of a half-elf, and then a life in an archdruid, for Keyleth, it's not going to be very long, but for Vax, it's going to be his whole life that he gets to spend with her. So I think that would be very satisfying for the two of them to at least be able to have a little bit of time together. So if they're able to do this in some form or fashion, I think that would be very satisfying. And I think a lot more fans would like this than anything else. And at the beginning of this video, I said there was only 3 outcomes that I could see, but that was not true. There's actually a 4th outcome that I think is very interesting and very cool if it does happen. And it involves the gods. Let's say Predathos is released and decides to kill some gods. And the first one he ends up getting his teeth on is the Raven Queen. Someone else is going to have to step up in that position and take that slot. Someone else who is a champion of the Raven Queen comes to mind right away. Someone who already is well versed in what she does and knows exactly what she wants, which is to sort of preserve the natural order of life and death. I feel like this would be a very cool and interesting way for that character of Vax to wrap up, is to become a god, and it very much connects it to the campaign 3 thing right now, instead of it just being a sort of little bow being tied around campaign 1. This would be a nice way to sort of, give him a positive end in campaign 3 that relates to campaign 3. So I think this to me would be the coolest ending, but the least likely. I feel like this is definitely the least likely. I feel like if all of the gods are in a bad place, we don't know which ones are going to die, and I think it's very unlikely that the Raven Queen will, because the Raven Queen's kind of important. So I feel like a lot of other gods might sort of get in the way, as much as they do hate her because she sort of rose up from mortality into godhood. I feel like they would protect her because they're aware of what she could probably do for them. So I feel like she's probably the last in line to die, but who knows? I do like this idea that Vax could become a god if something like this were to happen. If the Raven Queen were to die, Vax could step up and become a god. I think that's kind of cool. So there you have it. Those are the potential fates that I could see befalling Vax'ildan. So let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Do you think I missed any potential fates for him? Or do you think it's just going to align with one of these 4? Do you think he's going to continue being the champion? Do you think he's going to wither away and no longer exist? Do you think he's going to be able to live a life with Keyleth? Or do you think he's going to replace the Raven Queen as a god? I think that would be the most interesting one for me, and would be like the beginning of ushering in a new age for the world of Exandria, which I think is what this campaign is building towards. So I think that would be really cool. But let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. I will see you guys on Tuesday for whatever video I make next. Peace.
What?
You're very pretty.
Wow.
I just couldn't. I noticed you seemed kind of distracted.
There's a lot going on in the world, right?
No, I know, it's crazy. Are you distracted because you like looking at us like, ooh, nostalgia and thinking of fonder times? Or is it because that feathered man who turned into a marble?
She glances by, and you can see now the direction that she kept kind of glancing off is the direction she looks, and it's directly towards the red beam of the Malleus Key. And you see as she looks off and kind of takes a deep breath without looking at you, she just says, "We have to set him free."